I hate that this is who I am. I hate that I have such a latent potential for destruction and complete selfishness. I hate that I have to keep this demon inside me and in check at all times. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go with them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, going to go over a story. It's definitely one of the crazier ones I've done in a while, titled, I cheated and emotionally did awful things to my husband for years, and now we're getting divorced. And a big shout out to Brian for sending me this story. And guys, like I said, this is definitely one of the crazier ones I've done in a while. This is a story about a woman who is truly having a thorough nuclear meltdown for two big reasons. Number one, her husband's divorcing her, and rightfully so. And two, having a meltdown because pretty much doing a whole pity party, woe is me, I'm the most awful person to live type of story, but everybody feel bad for me. And you're going to see in this story, guys, how she truly is awful and a train wreck and a nightmare that any guy be in a relationship with. And she was terrible to her husband. Lying, cheating, emotional, effing with his mind, all these things. And all the back and forth she goes through, self-harm, all that. And honestly, looking probably for a whole lot of pity. And let's be honest, you ain't going to get it here. Because I just think that she's one of these people that is just truly an awful person and knows she's an awful person, yet still keeps doing the things that she does. And is doing this less because she's remorseful, but really just probably wants to make people feel bad for her or something like that. Call me harsh, but I've heard enough of these things and lived long enough that I don't know, my heart is black by now. But anyhow, guys, it's a longer one, but definitely entertaining, and I'll leave it up to you at the end, and I'll address again, do you buy this whole song and dance? So it starts off, she says here, trigger warning, mentions of all sorts of nasty things, self-harm, and infidelity. My D-Day was around 3 years ago. I confessed to it, but only after facing psychosis and complete nervous breakdown. I feel the need to tell my story to someone unfiltered, and I plan to delete this after a few days. I hope that is accepted and in this subreddit. Well, she may have deleted it, but I got my grubby little hands on this, and now I get to tell a story. I've been emotionally awful towards my husband for years. I also had an affair going on and off using his own trust against him, which I believe was yet another form of abuse. He was still incredibly loving towards me until there came the day that I simply went too far and said something so absolutely disgusting and vile that I wish I choked on my own blood before saying that. So she has been treating him like crap for years, and he still was loving her. To me, this sounds like she married a very weak guy, and also a very worn down guy. And it's so unfortunate, which is why I work hard to help guys build themselves up, so people like this can't wear them down or come into their lives. And if they do come into their lives, these guys will kick them to the curb. For the first time, he lost his cool completely and retaliated, saying he will divorce me. He asked me to pack my bags, and I complied because I was scared of him. He made me sit in the car, then he drove me to my parents' home and left me at their doorstep and left. Poor you. I didn't know where to go and didn't have the courage to face my parents, so I booked a hotel room. I couldn't even comprehend what was happening to me. What are you comprehending? He kicked you out. You're a piece of garbage. You were awful to him. What's there to comprehend? I had no knowledge of how to cope with this sudden change in my life. If I knew that I needed a therapist, none of this would have happened in the first place. So I did the only thing that I knew, bring some temporary respite and numbness from the pain and that choking feeling in my throat. I self-harmed. It did not work as it always did. As it always did. So she has a history of harming herself. I hurt myself more and more until I end up losing a finger. A finger? I passed out and woke up in the hospital cabin with my husband by my side. By the way he looked at me, there was pure disgust and hatred in his eyes. I knew he didn't want to be there. Yeah, he didn't want to be there. And I guarantee he was smart enough to realize she probably did this on purpose to get pity. Just like she's writing this story here to get pity. And to not have people hold her accountable for her actions because they're too busy feeling bad for her. This was all it took to make me completely unravel, and I told him right then and there that I realized that I've been abusive towards him and that I'll do anything to make it right. How about leave and never bother me again? That'll make it right. I surprised my own self when I said that. I still don't know how that works, but my previous therapist and I had a working theory that I was in denial that I could be an abuser, and so even though deep down I knew I was being abusive, I never dared to admit it to myself, even my own thoughts. But the realization that my actions had made my husband hate me broke all those mental barriers that I set up, and I could finally see things with clarity. Well, you're also no doubt a narcissist because you think that everything you do is right and everything else everybody else does is wrong. And of course, as a narcissist, I don't do anything wrong. No. I also confessed to my affair right there. He only responded that he knew. I left my personal computer at his house, and he accessed my personal cloud drive, presumably to find evidence of my actions to use against me in divorce, and ended up finding a lot more. He said there is no chance that we can be together ever again. While leaving, he said I should inform my parents and spend some time working on my unstable mental health. So let's review. She's been cheating on him for years, being awful to him in multiple fronts. She tried to off herself, but then one has to ask, if somebody really wants to off themselves, when they actually really do it? In the process, a finger was lost. How that happened, I But she says she has a history of this. So there's been other times with her offering herself before, has been in therapy for a long time. What a catch. Someone like this should not be in a relationship with anybody and should be in a mental hospital. I did as he said. I spent 4 months in a psychiatric hospital, there you go, under constant special supervision because I tended to hurt myself under isolation. I was diagnosed with rapid cycling bipolar dissociative identity disorder and severe PTSD from unaddressed childhood trauma. Oh goody. Guys, I'm not going to deny that there are people through childhood who go through awful, terrible things that as a child is not their fault. Not going to deny that. And it's terrible. And no child should go through anything like that at all. But they got to get help. And then they then go on and do awful things to other people as adults, then it's like, you can't feel bad at that point. It physically hurt to not be close to my husband, like an organ or part of my body was ripped out. I later learned it was unhealthy dependency and not love. Through years of trying to understand how I could have done everything I did, I arrived at the conclusion that I did love my husband at some point when we first met and married, but that my unresolved issues made me withdraw and turn me abusive. I hated him for absolutely no reason. I never believed he actually could love me as much as he professed. Here's the deal. She hated herself, and therefore, because she thought she was garbage, anybody that loved her, she then thought they were garbage. Like, how could he love me? Because I'm a piece of garbage, therefore I hate him and want to punish him for loving me. That's how it usually works. That's why a lot of beautiful women end up with the bad boy types that treat them like crap because they think they're shit. Because and when they actually get a nice guy that treats them well, they then punish the nice guy because in their mind they're garbage. And they're like, why is he so good to me? I despise it. I have no respect for him. I'm going to punish him. And they go back to the Chad and Tyrone that treats them awful because the Chad and Tyrone treat them in a manner they see themselves. This is obviously a more extreme case. This is what I'm figuring from the situation. I could be totally wrong here. My affair was a way to self-sabotage. I had such low confidence, right there, I had such low confidence, in other words, she thought she was shit, she had to sabotage it, and it was so unbelievable to me that someone could actually love me that much, ding, 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 that I assumed it was all a lie, and so I did everything to push him away. It's not that I fell out of love with him, I was simply incapable of loving anybody and anything, including my own self, because of my diseases. I was close to insanity. Right there. She thought she was shit. Anybody else that treated her well, loved her, they were shit in her eyes. And she self-sabotaged and was disgusted by that. It would take me more than a year of work on myself to finally gain a healthy understanding, love, and re-educate myself in relationships. But I didn't have that knowledge back then and mistook my yearning for my husband as love. As soon as I was stable enough to leave my ward, I tried to find out how my husband was doing. He had still not filed for divorce. I selfishly tried to contact him, but he shut me down. I devoted the next few months to do my best to see how I treated him from... I'll read that again. I devoted the next few months in doing my best to see how I treated him from his perspective, developing empathy for him and making sure to maintain no contact so he can heal from what I've done to him. There is no way that he's going to heal in a few months after what she's been doing for years. There's no way. And unfortunately, a guy like this who's with her, who obviously she repeatedly treats him awful, yet he still stays with her, what does that say about him? He's the type of guy that probably his whole life wasn't getting a whole lot of action, so he'd take anything he can get. Maybe he grew up in a family that he was treated like crap too, so this was normal to him. It's sad. This is why, again, I'm so about guys improving themselves, building themselves up the best they can be, so they won't attract people like this in their lives, and if they do, they'll cut them off any sign of being treated badly. But a guy that's worn down, thinks he's not worth anything, that thinks that this is the best it's going to be, or this is normal, will put up with this shit. I did realize the best thing I could do was leave him the F alone, and I did. There you go. But I took that fact that I had not received any divorce papers as proof that he wanted me to be a better person, and if he did, he would come back to me. I was hoping for a miracle, but I'm glad I was able to maintain no contact through all this. Maybe he didn't do divorce papers yet because he probably thought, if I do the divorce papers, although warranted, that would be the final thing I'll make her off herself, which we can all make jokes about. I'm not going to say that. Forget what I was hinting at there. But anyhow, he obviously has some level of care for her, so filing divorce papers could be the final thing, and so he didn't do that. But I'm sure he wants to divorce her. I also self-reported myself as an emotional abuser, but only the victim can press charges. I no longer had self-harming thoughts. I gave alcohol completely. Good Lord, she was drinking this whole time, not in the mental hospital, but just while she was in this state. Alcohol and what she has wrong with her don't mix very well. I told my parents everything, and contrary to the indifference and isolation I was expecting, they instead showed me love and support. I even gained enough confidence to take the leap of faith and confess about a certain incident that happened during my childhood that I didn't think I'd ever have the courage to tell my parents about. I regretted my affair with every shred of my soul. I made wrong choices and had shitty boundaries. Well, she mentioned childhood stuff, but she's still talking to her family, unless this is stuff that happened outside her family. I don't know. While all this was happening, I never had received any notification of divorce proceedings. I used to dread checking my email. Whenever a letter arrived at the door, when the doorbell rang, I sent a shiver up my spine. But nothing happened. He contacted me after 2 years of breaking up. Wow, it's been 2 years. The miracle I was expecting turned out to be true. He really did come back, but he was a shell of a man compared to before. He wasn't already a shell? The years of emotional trauma I had inflicted upon him made him an alcoholic and a social recluse. In his isolation, he'd come to believe the things I said all about him. This poor bastard. But on the other hand, a man is responsible for his actions and is accountable to his actions just as much as any woman. So the fact that he's coming back to her shows how messed up he is, but still, he needs help from people to say, stay the F away from her. Good Lord, and became an alcoholic. Hope she feels better now. To say I hated myself for what I've done to him would be an understatement. He let me back into his life, in his house, and in his bed. Smack, smack, smack. If he's letting her back after all that, he is... Obviously, he's worn down and effed up too, but still, he's bringing on what's going to happen. I attempted to give some agency back to him. I listened to him, gave him personal space, never argued with him. I wrote a signed confession letter admitting to doing all the things I did, infidelity, etc., that he could use against me if he desires. I also kept trying to nudge him to go to therapy until he budged and enrolled for weekly sessions. This dude needs help. He also needs help from loving family members and bros to get him away from her. Slowly he started recovering. He started going to the gym again and talking to more people. As he slowly started dealing with his trauma, my affair too came into the limelight of our conversations. He suffered from S-word inadequacy for a long time. I offered my perspective, which he found hard to trust for obvious reasons. I never lied again, took 100% ownership of my affair, and listened to him vent. This went on for more than half a year. So, if what she's writing is accurate, then that's great. Okay, she's doing things, but still, I just don't buy it. I still see this as a woe is me pity party fest in this thing, and who's done awful things. And okay, let's say she had childhood stuff. Okay, that's terrible. She shouldn't have any kid, but still, she became an adult, did all these things anyway, and the best thing she could do, honestly, is divorce him. That's the greatest gift she could give him, is divorce him and stay as far away from him as possible. Give him the big apology thing. Go to his family saying, I'm divorcing your son because of who I am, what I've done. Here's what happened. He needs help. That's the best thing she could do. Not stick around this guy, because this guy is just this effed up attachment to her and all of that. Through all this, I was never really clear if we were reconciling or not. My focus was completely on helping him heal and recover from the what I had inflicted upon him, blah, blah, blah. I did want him back, but I also didn't want to force him into anything. Through my discussions with my own therapist, I got to know that victims of abuse often find it hard to let go of their abusers. Such people will often feel powerless in front of the person who abused them because they're so worn down. That knowledge made my situation even more confusing. I didn't know he let me back in his life because he truly wanted to try, or because as a victim of all this, he finds it hard to let me go. This brings me to the present. I knew I needed to have this conversation with him sooner or later. I mustered every grain of courage I had in my soul and asked him if he wanted to reconcile. This was last week. It was the most vulnerable conversation I ever had with him, or anyone else. I had turned into a pool of tears by the time we finished, but basically we came to the conclusion that he cannot be sure he truly wants to reconciling or not. Well, you know what? Good. Let this guy go. And this chick, regardless of that she had all the care and was in the hospital and all that, she should not be in a relationship with anybody. He still feels love towards me, but he doesn't know if it's real or just a side effect of the trauma that I inflicted upon him. So he asked that we separate peacefully. Deep down in my heart, I knew this was coming. We had conversations about divorcing, about our expectations from each other after separation. I explored the possibility of reconciling after a few years, even just as friends. You can't be in a relationship with somebody, a romantic relationship, and then just be friends. Bullshit. She just wants him around for selfish reasons. No. Let this guy go. He turned it down, and I accepted it without question. Thank the Lord. Good for him. For a long time, I felt nothing but numbness. The news took time to sink in. I moved a week later. I'm only going to see him a handful of times again, and all of them in the presence of a lawyer. I sheepishly said goodbye, and when I stepped out of the door, he showed me enough grace to smile and wave back. Only after I moved out did it finally sink in. Ever since, I cry every night. I suspect it's going to take me a few more days to grasp that this is it. I'm really, this time, truly losing the love of my life. I would have done anything. He's the best thing that ever happened to me by far. How many times have we heard this same song and dance by these gals that are awful to their guys, right? And yes, clearly, this is not an excuse for her actions, but if she was in the mental hospital all the time, clearly she's got issues and probably childhood stuff. Fine. But also, it boils down to what I said before. She thought she was shit. She had a guy that treated her well, was loving towards her, and she treated him worse because she lost respect that he was treating her so well. And also, because he was taking her abuse, she lost more respect for him. And round we go, which is why God can't act weak. Women don't respect weakness. But of course, when the guy finally is done, like he did initially, and right here, that's when he was the best thing ever, and I love him so much, and blah, blah, blah. No, you had your chance. He's the best thing that ever happened to me, blah, blah, blah. Nothing even comes close, blah, blah, blah. The knowledge that this is all my fault and I have no one to blame for this but myself makes it worse. I don't know if I'll ever stop the feeling of raging fire or hatred towards myself. Cool down, drama queen. I'm sure he's suffering as well. Yeah, all because of me. He didn't deserve any of this. It will take him years to recover. He'll probably keep waking up screaming for a long time. He's woken up screaming? He'll probably still hear my disgusting words ring in his head for a long time, and he'll probably always feel like I chose someone else over him. Neither of those were true. I don't know what the hell she said to him. I'm back at my parents' house now. My siblings have been trying to cheer me up, but it's hard to not hate myself right now. After almost a year, I started having self-harming thoughts again. Yeah, I knew that was coming. Is this because maybe as a last-ditch effort to get the husband to come back? And one has to ask. I feel like I've lost all purpose in my life. I was so focused on improving myself before because there was the slightest chance of him coming back. But what is even the point now? I've lost so much. Such a great person, such an amazing bond. I don't know anything else from life. Again, he's so great and amazing now that he's left me. And so she was improving herself with the hope that he would give her a second chance, they'd reconcile. But no, he's done with her. Well, then you do everything you can to fix yourself for your own life. I don't know how he was doing. I don't deserve to. I've been doing everything possible to make absolutely sure that I do not end up breaking no contact in a moment of weakness. I know I won't, but I never know when my diseases might resurface. Is she serious disease, or is she using these so-called diseases to justify her bad actions? I hate that this is who I am. I hate that I have such a latent potential for destruction and complete selfishness. Then stop destroying everything in your path. Stop being such a destructive, self-centered a-hole. You're aware of it, then you choose. I hate that I have to keep this demon inside me in check at all times. Honey, the demon isn't just in the inside of you. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be infested with this mental illness. I wish every day that I woke up in somebody else's body. And above everything else, I wish my issues were only limited to me. I wish they did not hurt other people that were around me. Why did he have to get hurt when those were my issues, my mental diseases? She's really doubling and tripling down on the mental things. It's not my fault. It's the diseases and the demon inside me. The Balthazar, or whatever you want to call the demon name, that's making me do these things. I should have been the one suffering. I should have been hurting, not him. I have vivid dreams about someone choking me in my sleep. Oh, Lord. Or a truck driving over me. I don't even bother with trying not to cry anymore. I just go about my day while the tears keep flowing. I know I need to live. Back when I self-harmed and lost a finger, still I'm wanting to know how that happened. I promised him when he met me in the cabin that I will not off myself. Every time I think of ending things, I remember that promise. I know that if I die, he will blame himself. I also remember the tears and concern on the faces of everyone else, my parents, my brothers, and their wives. Good Lord. I don't want to inflict any further trauma on him or any one of them at all. I've done enough already. Then if you're feeling that far gone, you're going to do something, then check yourself back into the hospital. They'll let you check yourself in. And start getting your shit together for yourself, not to hope to get him back. He's done. You screwed up. Take accountability for your actions. And if you're aware you do all these awful things and you got the demon, you got Balthazar inside you, I'm just choosing the demon name here. Well, guess what? You're aware of it. Do something. Small baby steps. But stop using that as an excuse for your actions. And go from there. But do not contact this guy. And don't do anything drastic, which will then try to get in desperate hopes to get him to come back to the hospital or something like that. He's done. Move on. Consider this your penance for everything you've done. I try to be present for my parents and my siblings. They care deeply for me and try to cheer me up. I don't think I have the capacity to be cheered up anymore. The best I can do is put on a happy face so I don't bring down the moods of other people close to me. Once the divorce is done, I have resolved to admit myself back under supervised psychiatric care so I don't end up self-harming again. Thank you, whoever you are, for reading this till the end. I wasn't kidding when I said this is crazy and a train wreck. So, as I said in the beginning, do you guys think that she sincerely is sorry and trying to turn things around? Or is this just big freaking pity party and trying to get people to feel bad for her for her actions to justify them? Again, it's so sad when children have awful things happen during childhood. I don't need to elaborate here. They mess them up as adults and all that. But when they become adults, what they then do, they're responsible for their actions. And again, people can go back and forth about they didn't get the care they needed and blah, blah, blah. But the point I'm trying to make is, again, notice your relationship, guys. How many times have you known gals that were these pretty gals that were seemingly nice, or were these guys that treat them like garbage? And you're always like, why is she with that guy that treats her like garbage? That's because she thinks herself is garbage. And guarantee that same girl will get her with a guy who treats her like a human being. And it won't take long for her to start to resent that guy and treat him like garbage. Because he sees something good in her. She thinks she's shit. Therefore, she's resentful of him and will lash out and be awful to him. Kind of like in this story here. And there's a point. Do you feel bad for her? No. There's a point. And she's gotten the care, and she's trying to better herself, but still it was always to get him back. And again, she was awful to him on so many levels. You saw how she broke him down, this poor guy, but this guy needs to get his shit together too. And now that she's losing him, all of a sudden he's the best thing ever. Right? She was cheating on him and doing all these awful things, but now he's the greatest, the love of my life, the greatest thing ever. You all heard that in these stories when the guys finally walk out on him. It's a big mess. So guys, most important thing here is, like I say all the time, work on yourselves. Work hard on yourself, make yourself the best you can be in life, build up your self-confidence through self-improvement and achievements and being the best you can be. You're going to feel good. Your confidence is good. And you'll be less likely to attract people like that in your life. And if you do, you'll feel so good about yourself the second they start acting like a-holes and doing the things that she described, you're out of there. But if you're worn down and don't think very highly of yourself, you'll attract people like that in your life and keep them there, and it'll just go round and round of the turmoil and abuse and all that. And I don't want that to happen to anybody. And people like that should not be in relationships at all. So I think she's having a big meltdown because, yeah, she's messed up, but still, she's responsible for her actions. She's having a meltdown because he left her, and good for him. Good freaking riddance, lady. And get your shit together for you, your family, and leave that guy alone. And I do think also, big pity party here to get people to feel bad for her so she can kind of like get away with some of her stuff. Okay, you can call me harsh, but you live long enough, you've seen enough that you start to, I don't know, the bleeding heart starts to go away. Anyway, guys, that was it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this. Let me know what you think. Is she put on a show? Is this a big pity party, or is she seriously screwed up, or a combination of it all? I'd like to hear about it. Comment away. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.